we discussed, first of all, who am I? I am Giovanni Mazzeo. I am an associate professor at the University of Naples Partenope, and at the same time, I am chief scientist at Trillion, a company that I co-founded with some people. And we are a company that is trying to provide, in the space of Web3, trying to enable a high-performing, verifiable, decentralized exchange. So today we heard a lot about the use cases of trusted execution environment, something like, for example, AI. And here in this presentation, we are going into the details of another use case, that is the usage of trusted execution environments in the Web3 context, and in particular for securing a decentralized exchange. First of all, let's understand what is the context. So in the Web3, there is this situation where the market share of decentralized exchanges is rising. The forecast is pretty promising against those that are centralized exchange. Centralized exchanges like, for example, Binance, Deribit, just to make you an example of some of these centralized exchanges. And why is that? It's because decentralized exchange provide more trust to people, since there is no need to trust a central entity. And in the Web3 space, this is very important because you want to always have a very decentralized property in your solutions. However, there are some limitations in terms of performance. In particular, so decentralized exchanges should rely and depend on the performance of the blockchain. And this is the blockchain is known to be low performing, especially L1 blockchains like Ethereum. And these, of course, entails issues to the user experience, and in terms of, for example, delays for having a confirmation of transactions, delays in particular in moments of congestion, which are the most critical moments. So when there is a shocking event, the Ukraine war or whatever, and so people, there is a high flow, a high volume of trading, people want high performance, and they want, and the timing there is very important, because that could affect the economic, of course. So what is the idea is that we should balance between performance and trust. There was the adoption of roll-up, the so-called L2 blockchains, so blockchains that are batching transactions, and then these transactions are relying on the L1 blockchain. But in this case, again, we are gaining in terms of performance, but we are again centralizing. So we are, for example, using units that are called the sequencers, matchers, engines, mempools. Now, don't care too much about the technical details of this unit. What is important is that you realize that we are increasing in terms of centralization, and but gaining in terms of performance. So of course the sheet is short, and there are, of course, different risks in this situation, because the sequencer, so these central points could change the order of transactions. So I am a trader, I make a trade, then there is another trader in a different instant of time making another trade. If those trades are changed in terms of orders, that could have a sort of impact for the financial return. Then there are possibility of selective censorships. So someone could apply censorship policy. So there are risks from the financial point of view that are that are pretty important. And as I was telling you, there are different kind of these risks, and all of these, of course, entails a money loss. If we centralize execution, we need to find a solution. So we want to centralize a bit the execution using these L2 solutions, but we need to protect these solutions. And how we do this? We do this leveraging trusted execution environments. So trusted execution environments to the rescue. In this case, we leverage, especially, we are not caring much about the confidentiality. So as you know, the trusted execution environment can be used for providing confidentiality of data and code running inside it, but also to prove the code that is being used, that is processing the data. So the idea in Trillion is that we leverage the trusted execution environment, especially for integrity purposes, and to demonstrate to customers that the code that is processing their transactions is actually what is the code that we have open sourced that they can trust. And so they have a proof, a so-called proof of code, and so that there are no risks of changes of orders of transactions and so on. Of course, how we do this? We do this by leveraging the attestation features of trusted execution environments. So the architecture of Trillion is this one. Now I'm not going into the details, but just to let you understand that what are we doing? We are essentially leveraging a set of decentralized sequencers, so these important units of these L2 blockchains running inside the trusted execution environments. And in this way, we are capable of providing that guarantee to our customers. Now, one point. So as you understand, this context has a pretty strong security requirements. And we had a lot of questions from investors regarding risks of trusted execution environment. So the trusted execution environment is not the panacea. We know that they have a certain threat model that they can't cover against certain risks. And so, first of all, there is the one main point that you need to trust one vendor, one technology provider, one manufacturer. Then there are all side channel and micro architectural attacks risks. There are, of course, physical attacks that can be made against the trusted execution environment. There is one that was recently published that is very widely known, that is called the te.fail, and you can also visit their webpage, where they prove this. And this was one of the attack that was discussed with the meetings that we had with investors. And another point is that with the attestation, we cannot prove the ownership or the location. We can prove the code, but not the location. So in Trillion, what are we doing? Given the context and given we smelled this need of additional trust from customers and investors as a consequence. And so we decided to set up some sort of approaches. First of all, leveraging multi-vendor diversity. So leveraging multiple trusted execution environment technologies, VM-based trusted execution environments that rotates among themselves and provide more guarantees against specific vendors' risks that could happen. Then providing so-called platform ownership assurance. So we are leveraging some state-of-the-art research works that can be used to give a proof on the data center where these trust execution environments are running. And this is needed because we want to give, let's say, insurance to our customers that the physical security of the data center, so that the trusted execution environment is inside, for example, Azure, AWS, where they know that there is a certain physical security made on those machines. And last but not least, we are leveraging a hybrid approach that is a sort of backup layer, a ZK-proof correctness backstop that we call it this way, where we can, let's say, asynchronously provide a verification with zero knowledge proofs on the transactions that were made. Why we need to do it asynchronously? Because one of the main property and one of the main narratives that we present in Trillion is that we achieve instant finality and we achieve 100 transactions per second. And we can do this exactly by removing a certain slowness that comes from, for example, consensus algorithms, because we prove the code, we leverage the trusted execution environment that is being used. And so we are setting up an asynchronous solution for providing additional guarantees to customers that require a certain level of guarantees, but at the cost of performance. And yeah, I won't go through the details of these solutions, but of course, feel free to ask any other question that you want, and in case I can provide the reply. Anyway, the website is there reported, and my mail is there in case you have questions or you want to discuss some topics or research topics. We are happy to do it.
Thank you so much. That was really great. Yeah, we're going to have all of the sessions on YouTube later today, and we'll have links to everybody's, places, slides, all of that good stuff. So, yeah, thank you very much, Giovanni. That's great. So,
Thank you.
it's been really great seeing all of these different perspectives, all of the different layers that let's see, sorry about that, have been here. I think there's a lot to learn in the confidential computing space. I'd love to know what you want to see next, what we could do next in terms of content. But I want a big thank you to all of the different speakers. Thank you to Anjuna